मानुषी संवाद में आपका एक बार फिर स्वागत है। इन दिस एडिशन ऑफ मानुषी संवाद, वेलकम टू यू ऑल। अभी हम यूपी में योगी जी की बात कर रहे थे कि क्या उनकी विशिष्टता है और क्या परिस्थिति चल रही है। ये जो चुनाव हमारे सर पर है, यूपी का सभी के सर पर वही भारी हुआ पड़ा है। और उसके अलावा इस वक्त वाकई ही इतनी एंग्जाइटी है कि बाकी देश का हम सोच भी नहीं पा रहे। पर मुझे लगता है कि यूपी की ही तरह असम भी बहुत ही संवेदनशील क्षेत्र है हमारे देश का, और वहाँ हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा का चीफ मिनिस्टीरियल पोस्ट पर पहुंच पाना और बने रह पाना एक बहुत बड़ी अपने आप में उपलब्धि है। तो आपसे मुलाकात करा रहे हैं हम अजीत दत्ता जी की। वेलकम अजीत जी।
Thank you so much,
आइए,
Madhu ji. Thanks a
जिन्होंने
lot.
ये पुस्तक लिखी है हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा पे। तो सबसे पहले मेरा अजीत जी से यही सवाल होगा कि ये कैसे पहुंच गए हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा पे पुस्तक लिखने। क्या था जिस बात ने आपको आकर्षित किया हेमंत जी के प्रति, और क्या जो रोल यूपी में योगी जी निभा रहे हैं, क्या वैसी ही कुछ शख्सियत है हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा की, ये कुछ अपने ही किस्म के हैं? क्या समानताएं और क्या क्या डिफरेंसेस हैं इन दोनों में? जरा इससे कहानी अपनी शुरू कीजिए प्लीज।
अच्छा ठीक है तो मैं शुरू करता हूँ with what the with a comparison between
No,
both the
first
chief
tell me what
ministers.
got you
Is that
started. You do
okay?
describe it in
So
the book, but what got you interested in Himant Biswa Sarma?
yeah, so actually, matlab, from my childhood, I have been very interested in politics, and this genre of political biographies has been my favorite genre of books. So I had always wanted to take up such a project at some point of time. And in the post 2014 period, Himanta Biswa Sharma definitely emerged as one of the most interesting politicians in the Indian political landscape. Kyunki, as you know, he was in the Congress until the year 2015. And from there, when he came to the BJP, unlike a lot of the people who have been there in the BJP for many years and who have a very cult like following amongst BJP supporters, this was one man who came from the outside but enjoyed a similar kind of support from BJP's core base. So that is what really made me curious about why it is that somebody who has had a career that spanned for more than 2 decades in the Congress party suddenly comes to the BJP and has the same kind of support, the same kind of enthusiasm around him. And obviously, it was because this man was not shying away from taking up a lot of what is considered to be the core issues of the BJP's core vote base. So he did enjoy that kind of support. And then we had the entire political side of the story where you had the Northeast under him becoming the first Congress Mukt part of India before any other part of India for that matter. So, and this was, of course, after Amit Shah had appointed him as the convener of the NEDA, the Northeast Democratic Alliance. So, so there were a lot of stories about how he had gone about and done this, how he had gone from one state to another and won these elections for the BJP and their allies in the Northeast, how he was managing all these coalition governments. So I thought this is a very interesting person to write about. And and then when I met him and I told him that this is a project that I want to take up, he seemed quite open to the idea. So that's how we sort of proceeded. And that's how I went to Assam and sort of stayed there for a long time, did my research, and
Was he
wrote the
open
book.
to you probing his life?
Very much, very much. I mean, he uh, he answered everything I asked him candidly. He welcomed me to his house. He put me in touch with whoever I wanted from his life, from different periods of his life. So there was really no problem on that front. And I noticed that people around him who were whom I was interviewing were also extremely candid about things. They did not really try to constantly, glorify him or something like that. So there was a sense of frankness in the whole process.
आपने आपको असमी भाषा तो नहीं आती होगी ना अजीत?
नहीं
आप
आती
कहाँ
है,
के?
नहीं.
बंगाल के हैं?
हाँ, so actually my father's side of the family is Bengali, but my grandfather, my great grandfather, they were in Assam for a long time. Even my father is born there, and then they moved to Pondicherry after that.
तो कुछ समझ लेते हैं भाषा? कैसा अनुभव रहा?
Assamese. हाँ,
एसएमएस?
तो Assamese मतलब when I hear it, it's pretty simple to understand, but I can't speak it. So even now, if I listen to his press conferences or his speeches, I can understand very clearly what he's saying. But I can't speak the language.
नहीं, पर कई लोगों से बात की होगी ना आपने, सिर्फ
Hmm.
हेमंत जी से तो नहीं, तो
नहीं.
भाषा बीच में नहीं आई?
नहीं, so
आ-
if there were some people who only knew Assamese, I had others who were there to help me for the translation.
ओके, तो बताइए कि क्या फर्क है और क्या समानताएं हैं योगी जी में
Hmm.
और हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा में? क्योंकि लोग
हाँ,
इनको
तो
एक ही स्टेटस का मानने लगे हैं। इनकी
हाँ,
ओरिएंटेशन के प्रति बहुत श्रद्धा देश में पैदा हो रही है, और मुझे हैरानी होती है कि असम का कोई चीफ मिनिस्टर है, वो इतने
hmm.
मेन स्ट्रीम बन गया है लोगों की
Hmm.
भावनाओं के अंदर, उसने अपनी जगह इतनी
Exactly.
जल्दी बना दी। तो जरा
हाँ.
बताइए ये क्या आपने देखा?
तो एक्चुअली ये इन द इंट्रोडक्शन मैंने ये लिखा है समवेयर दैट देयर आर अ फ्यू पॉलिटिशियंस whose whose traits I have seen in Himanta Biswa Sharma. So these include very different kinds of politicians. For instance, a lot of the things that the late Arun Jaitley did at the national level is something that you see in Himantada at the state level. A lot of the things that
जरा
Amit Shah has
समझाइए,
done at
अरुण
the
नहीं, अरुण जेटली और हेमंत दा क्या
hmm.
कॉमनैलिटी हो सकती है? मुझे हैरानी हो रही है, मुझे जरा
हाँ, तो
समझ।
basically Acha, so basically, he is somebody who sets the intellectual narrative. He is somebody who sets the media narrative there in Assam very easily. He's somebody who has connections cutting across party lines. He is somebody who has connections cutting across spheres other than politics. He's considered to be amongst the sharpest lawyers that the Assam High Court has, the Guwahati High Court has seen. So there are those similarities. A student leader from an early age. So those are things that reminded me of Arun Jaitley ji. Then there
But
were
Arun
things that
Jaitley was not a mass leader. He could never
no,
win
he
a
was not a
re-election.
mass leader. He was not a mass leader, but
He was
these
a Lutyens
traits.
leader. He was more comfortable in the Lutyen zone, in the
Yeah.
power
So these.
corridor, पर
Yeah. So he
mass leader
is.
तो बिल्कुल नहीं थे।
So Himantada. That's what I'm getting to. So this is one element that Himantada has. He has other elements also. Like for instance, there is a very strong element of Nitin Gadkari being like an extremely efficient administrator. You have a very strong element of Amit Shah who can, go to a new part of the country and conquer it overnight. And so while I was writing this, I also realized that there was a very strong element of Yogi Adityanath that I saw there. And that's the reason why I brought this entire comparison up. Because this is somebody who never hesitates to defend anything that is civilizational. He never hesitates to, defend anything that is civilizational, even if it is something that drives him into a controversy. So whether it's in his interviews, whether he is speaking at a rally, whatever it is, he always sticks to that aspect of things, and it is something that people really admire him for there, and everywhere else also for that matter, but especially in Assam, it's something that people really admire him for. So that aspect of being the defender of civilization and of doing it in a way where it's become something that he does as a mass leader uh, is a very similar trait that he has with Yogi Adityanath ji. Uh, of course, the administrator bit is also something that he and Yogi ji have in common. So, for instance, you would have seen in the last 5 years how Yogi Adityanath has gone about creating the whole medical infrastructure in Uttar Pradesh, building medical colleges in different districts in different parts of Uttar Pradesh, literally taking medical infrastructure, uplifting medical infrastructure in the state. So this is something that he is known for in Assam because he has done the exact same thing as the health minister of the state under Torun Gogoi. So it's a sector that he has completely transformed. So there are those similarities of being extremely efficient administrators,
नहीं,
making
पर आप जी
hmm,
आपने कहा
making a
कि
difference in people's lives on the ground also. So, हाँ.
that's okay. That's now you said कि ये दोनों civilizational issues उठाने से झिझकते नहीं है, ना योगी
Hmm.
जी ना हेमंतो। अगर
Hmm.
सिविलाइजेशनल इशू उठाने हो तो केवल एलोपैथिक मेडिसिन वाले अस्पताल नहीं खोले होते, वर्ल्ड क्लास
Hmm.
फैसिलिटीज आयुर्वेद की रिसर्च और आयुर्वेदिक सर्विसेज के लिए होनी चाहिए थी, वो तो
Hmm.
नहीं हुई। तो ये तो बहुत एंटी सिविलाइजेशन है। और जबकि सबको मालूम है कि वेस्टर्न मेडिसिन, एलोपैथी मेडिसिन के पास इलाज किसी बीमारी का नहीं है, सिर्फ पैलिएटिव है। वो कहते हैं आपको शुगर है तो ये ले लो, डाउन आ जाएगी, आपने इंसुलिन लगा ली, फिर ऊपर चली गई, फिर लगाया इंसुलिन, फिर ऊपर। इट्स नॉट अ क्योर। किसी भी चीज का एलोपैथी के पास सिम्टम मैनेजमेंट पैलिएटिव क्योर के केयर के अलावा कुछ नहीं है, या इमरजेंसी में बहुत अच्छे हैं, सर्जरी अगर जरूरत है, एक्सीडेंट हो गया। जो भी सिविलाइजेशनल पकड़ रखता है इंसान, वो कम से
Hmm.
कम एक एलोपैथिक अस्पताल और कम से कम 5 आयुर्वेदिक रिसर्च सेंटर और हॉस्पिटल बनाएगा। क्यों है इनको नहीं सूझ रहा? और वो हमारी सारी हेरिटेज केवल अब बाबा रामदेव पे हमने छोड़ दी है कि वो ही जिंदा रखे। ऐसा क्यों?
अच्छा, तो one thing is that when you look at civilizational issues, especially in a state like Assam, I think something in terms of healthcare, in terms of whether you are opting for this option or that option, is not something that is really at the forefront of the discourse or the debate. Because there are many other issues that have at a civilizational level that have plagued the state since a long time. For instance, you know, election after election. In fact, the whole politics, the whole society of this state is completely around how illegal immigration is being dealt with,
नहीं, वो
what
साथ
you're
है।
doing
I
about.
just wind up this issue before I give you the
Hmm,
platform to talk about
hmm,
other issues। मैं सिर्फ इतना कहना
hmm,
चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि
hmm,
आपकी उनके साथ कम्युनिकेशन अच्छी है, कम से कम ये
hmm.
संदेशा मेरा पहुंचा दीजिए कि
Acha.
हेल्थ केयर का फ्यूचर ग्लोबली अब
Hmm,
समझ आ रहा है लोगों को कि
hmm,
एलोपैथिक वेस्टर्न मेडिसिन में नहीं है। कोरोना में भी
hmm,
बहुत बड़ा स्कैम बन गया ये सारी वैक्सीन, और कहीं इस इट इज नॉट एबल टू इवन प्रिवेंट। जितनी मर्जी आप बूस्टर डोजेस लगाए जाओ, कोई नहीं कह सकता कि आपको कोरोना नहीं होगा। जबकि ये सिद्ध हो गया है कि जिन्होंने घर बैठ के केवल आयुर्वेदिक इलाज किया, आयुष का या पतंजलि का, वो सब सेफ रहे, वो सब सेफ रहे। नाउ आई डोंट वांट टू ड्रैग दिस इशू टू मच।
hmm.
मेरे
No, but
हिसाब
if you have something, if there is something substantive on this, I can definitely forward it across.
यस,
There is no.
आई वुड लाइक टू। तो कम से कम हर एक एम्स लाइक हॉस्पिटल जो बना रहे हैं, उसके साथ कम से कम 2 आयुर्वेदिक बढ़िया वर्ल्ड क्लास फैसिलिटी, और असम में तो वन संपदा इतनी है, the biodiversity of Assam, which is still alive, unlike many of the northern states. So the herbal cures that Ayurveda depends on, it has such a huge potential even for export of our Ayurvedic health healthcare systems. And जैसे केरला ने बहुत इसको टूरिज्म से भी जोड़ लिया, आयुर्वेदिक क्योर्स को, उनके जो बने रिजॉर्ट्स बने हैं, बहुत अच्छी अच्छी जगहें बनाई हैं, और दुनिया भर से लोग आ रहे हैं। आज केरला में बाकी चीजों की टूरिज्म इतनी नहीं होती जितनी हेल्थ टूरिज्म हो रही है, वो मेनली आयुर्वेदा बेस्ड है। तो मैं ये कह रही हूँ असम में भी ऐसा हो सकता है, और वो होना जरूरी है। ये सिविलाइजेशनल इशू उतना ही है जितना, क्योंकि ये हमारा सिविलाइजेशनल असॉल्ट ही है एलोपैथी का, कि आपने ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज सिस्टम्स को बिल्कुल ध्वस्त करने का कोशिश किया। चलिए अब इस इशू को यहीं बंद करते हैं। नाउ यू टेल मी, हाउ इज ही हैंडलिंग, क्योंकि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने तो एनआरसी को छोड़ दिया, दैट्स कंप्लीटली ठंडे बस्ते में। तो वो कैसे हैंडल कर रहे हैं इलीगल माइग्रेंट्स का इशू, अपने बलबूते पे क्या कर रहे हैं?
तो अभी तो मतलब बेसिकली व्हाट ही हैज डन इज दैट he is not allowing any illegal immigrants to really take land and settle there. So that is one thing. He is definitely disincentivizing them in a big way by making law and order much stricter, by under his tenure, not just now when he has come to the BJP, but this is something that because see, he is a product of the Assam movement, of the Assam agitation. So those values, which are actually the same values as the RSS holds in Assam since the beginning, uh, are very common. Are common values between what is his new home in the BJP and what are his values intrinsically. And this is something that he did not even he never shied away from even when he was in the Congress. So even as while holding the portfolio of the it's called implementation of the Assam Accord. It's a ministry by itself in Assam. So even while holding that portfolio, the amount of fencing that he did on the Bangladesh border was unparalleled, like it was never done before in history. So those things are there, and even now, like there's a clear move to disincentivize illegal immigration in various ways. But again, these moves, I don't think they are moves that are permanent. Obviously, these are temporary solutions, and he is, from what I understand, very committed towards working towards permanent solutions as well, uh, as and when things sort of pan out in that way.
नहीं, मैंने आपसे जो सवाल पूछा वो ये बड़ी सिंपल लेवल पे, जो उम्मीद थी असम को कि एनआरसी जो होगा इनिशिएट, अगर वो इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज, तो इलीगल बांग्लादेशीज को, रोहिंग्यास को निकालना आसान हो जाएगा, क्योंकि आपके पास कोई मापदंड होगा कि हमारे अपने हैं, ये नहीं है। अब वो जो सेंटर ने ठंडे बस्ते में डाल लिया, तो क्या कर सकते हैं? व्हाट इज इन हिज पावर? वो क्या कर सकते हैं ये इलीगल माइग्रेंट्स को? क्योंकि वो तो हर चीज में, जैसे अभी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के या स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की इतनी जो स्कीम्स हैं गरीबों के लिए, हाउस होम फॉर द होमलेस, सबके ऊपर छत हो, वो सरकार दे रही है। अब जो मुझे दिखता है उत्तर भारत में, कि सबसे पहले लाइन में खड़े होते हैं बांग्लादेशी और रोहिंग्या, वो ले रहे हैं, उस लाइन में सबसे पहले पहुंच जाते हैं, क्योंकि उनकी पूरी कम्युनिटी की उनको सपोर्ट मिलती है, जो डुप्लीकेट कार्ड भी बना देती है उनको, आधार कार्ड भी मिल गए, वोटर कार्ड भी मिल गए। तो ये जब उत्तर भारत में भारत सरकार सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के नाक के नीचे हो रहा है, वहां क्या हो रहा है? वो क्या कंट्रोल कर पा रहे हैं लीगल? एक तो है नए लीगल माइग्रेंट अभी भी आ पा रहे हैं, और जो पुराने हैं उनके लिए you said he's trying to make life difficult. In what way? Please give me concrete examples.
No, you would have seen that a lot of these, acres and acres, thousands of acres of land had been usurped by them, temple lands, forest lands, etc. They've completely set up their colonies illegally, and they have been driven out of such places. I mean, this is something that he has taken up very strongly, but this is something that happened, that began even during the Sonowal government last time. So this is something that they have worked at the state level towards disincentivizing this entire illegal immigration from happening. uh, I don't know what they can do beyond that at the moment, but I think this is something that is happening in full force.
Give me examples of the एक तो आपने बहुत अच्छा उदाहरण दिया अभी कि जो इन्होंने इलीगली टेम्पल लैंड ले लिए थे या फॉरेस्ट लैंड ले लिए थे और अपनी कॉलोनी सेटअप, तो क्या वो कॉलोनीज को उखाड़ा गया?
हाँ,
कहाँ भेजा गया उनको?
आई डोंट नो कहाँ भेजा गया उनको, बट डेफिनेटली मतलब दे हैव बीन टेकन आउट ऑफ दीज लैंड्स, क्योंकि these were all illegal settlements. So this is after he has taken over as chief minister. This has happened in many parts of the state where they have been asked. I mean, they have been including in Guwahati itself, where they have been taken out of a lot of the illegal lands that they were occupying.
नहीं, पर जाते कहाँ हैं? याद एक तो है कि वो बांग्लादेश लौट जाए, क्योंकि यहाँ नहीं अब घुसपैठ कर सकते या यहाँ नहीं जमीन हथिया सकते, तो क्या वापस जाने हैं कि वहां से हटाया कहीं और जाके बैठ गए? क्या हो रहा है
I
इनका?
don't know, मतलब I don't know अगर वापस जा रहे हैं कि नहीं, but I think that this will certainly disincentivize people from coming.
नहीं, अब वहां के अखबार तो रिपोर्ट करते होंगे ना कि वहां से हटाया, तो कहाँ चले गए ये लोग? अब मान लीजिए कोई भी बस्ती है, 5,000 लोग हैं वहां
हम्म,
रह गए, आपने हटाया क्योंकि इलीगल है,
हम्म।
अब वो वैनिश तो होंगे नहीं, तो कहाँ जाते हैं? अखबार कुछ तो लिखती होगी, क्या उसको आप फॉलो अप कर रहे हैं?
नहीं नहीं, ये तो अभी मतलब it has just started now in the last few months. Yeah,
हाँ, तभी ऑल द
क्योंकि
मोर रीजन.
it's not been so long that he's become chief minister. Na? He's become chief minister in May last year. So,
Yes, yes, but you said some
hmm,
measures are being taken. So I just wanted to know whether, see, one thing is कि आप यहाँ से हटाओ, जैसे दिल्ली में हम देखते हैं,
hmm,
झुग्गियों को हटाते, फिर 2 महीने बाद वापस, वहां नहीं तो थोड़ा बगल में, या स्ट्रीट
hmm,
वेंडर्स
hmm,
को उठाते हैं, वो फिर
hmm,
पहले अगर वो 2,000 रुपया महीना या 5,000 रुपया महीना घूस दे के आते थे पुलिस को, फिर वो 9,000 8,000 पे आ जाते हैं, पर आ जाते हैं.
hmm,
द पॉइंट इज कि यहाँ तो इसलिए हटाते हैं क्योंकि पुलिस को, पॉलिटिशियन को अपना घूस बढ़ाना है, तो जब भी
hmm,
उसको घूस रेट बढ़ाना है मंथली, तो वो हटा देगा, ताकि वापस आएंगे तो ज्यादा नेगोशिएट करके मंथली बढ़ जाएगी. पर
hmm,
जाहिर है कि हेमंत जी को तो वो काम नहीं करना, कि वो
hmm,
इनसे पैसे उगाही तो नहीं चाहेंगे, वो तो चाहते हैं
hmm,
बाहर जाएं. तो मेरी आपसे एक और अनुरोध है, क्योंकि आपका इतना इन्वॉल्वमेंट है इनके काम के साथ, तो कृपया
hmm,
फॉलो अप कीजिए, कुछ कम से कम केस
hmm,
स्टडीज कीजिए कि यहाँ मान लीजिए 5 जगह से उन्होंने एक्शन लिया,
hmm,
अब क्या हुआ उन लोगों का? क्या वो वाकई ही
hmm,
परेशान होके उन्होंने सोचा इससे अच्छा बांग्लादेश ही चले जाएं या बर्मा ही घुस चले जाएं,
hmm.
कि या वहां से उठे कहीं और चले गए? ये बातें, क्योंकि उनकी कम्युनिटी की तो बहुत ग्लोबल सपोर्ट उनके पास है, पैसे की
हाँ,
कोई
global
कमी नहीं.
support है, but these are, I mean, these are just some of the measures. If you see, matlab, there are a lot of other measures also, whether it's the cow slaughter bill that he has brought, whether it's the
जी.
love jihad bill that he has brought. So this is, I mean, it's not just a one-pronged approach. So this is an approach that, see, I don't know if anybody will ever be successful in driving them out at the same rate at which they have come in through the decades. Magar, uh, these measures are certainly a starting point. They are disincentivizing them. That's all we can say for now. Abhi to, matlab, I don't know beyond that what we can say right now.
Okay, but I would urge you to keep an eye on it. Yeah, I
Yes.
will
Yes.
also now start reading, the papers from Assam to know
Hmm.
how things are panning out. पर लव जिहाद बिल का बताइए, क्या काफी सीरियस प्रॉब्लम थी लव जिहाद के असम में, और कैसे उसको
Uh,
हैंडल करना है?
no, so basically, this was the same kind of problem that has occurred in other parts of the country. It is just that because of a higher population of a particular community, the scale would have been higher. That is pretty much it. Matlab, other than that, the bill is also similar to what other states would have introduced. But yeah, I mean, this is not something that every state in the country has introduced or every state in the country has even recognized, I think. So this was one of the first moves that he made as chief minister.
So are you aware of action he has taken? कैसे, जैसे योगी जी के यूपी में तो
Hmm.
बहुत हाई प्रोफाइल केसेस हुए जब उन्होंने
Hmm.
लव जिहाद के केसेस में क्रैक डाउन किया है, या लड़की
Hmm.
को भगाया गया तो उन्होंने क्रैक डाउन किया।
Hmm.
तो वहां पे ऐसे केसेस पे क्या क्रैक डाउन हो रहा है? इज इट समथिंग दैट्स
No,
बीइंग
I have not
डिस्कस्ड?
followed up on any case or anything that has come up which is high profile as such. But
ये अखबारें रिपोर्ट करती हैं कि नहीं असम की?
I have not seen after, because this is also some. See, all of these measures have been taken in the last few months. So these are things that we will probably see in the coming months, much like emerge much strongly in terms of action, in terms of results. But yeah, I mean, we have to also, I mean, keep in mind that he's just starting out as the chief minister. So although he has been there for a long time and he has, been at different levels of power since decades, but it's for the first time that he is completely in as much control as he is in right now. It's still something very new.
ओके। अच्छा, योगी जी के पीछे तो मीडिया बहुत पड़ा रहता है उनको,
Hmm.
काफी नेगेटिव पोर्ट्रेयल होता है उनका,
Hmm.
और मोदी जी से ज्यादा कई मायने में उनका क्रिटिक होता है मीडिया में, क्योंकि वो बहुत साफ सपाट कड़क बात कहते हैं। तो
Hmm.
हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा का मीडिया के साथ क्या रिश्ता है? नेशनल मीडिया
Uh,
में भी मैंने
hmm.
कोई गालियां नहीं उनके लिए सुनी।
Nice. So that's the thing. I mean, he is maybe it is because he has spent a lot of time on the other side in the Congress, or maybe he is naturally very good at this. But he definitely handles the media very well, probably much better than most politicians, most high-profile senior politicians in the BJP. But this is something. This is a trait that we have seen since a long time. Because he actually, you see, as a teenager, or even before he was a teenager, when he was maybe like 10 years old or 11 years old, when he first joined the Assam movement, that is when he came into contact with the media first. Because one of his first jobs was to take press statements of the ASU, because back then ASU was, functioning out of Guwahati University. There were all these young people like Prafulla Mahanta and all who were students still, and they were at the helm of this movement which had engulfed the whole state. So his one of his first jobs was to actually take their press statements and go around the city, give it to various newspapers, etc. And then later, when he became a confidant of Chief Minister Saikia, again media management, perception management, and such things, talking to the intellectuals of the state to explain various issues from the government's perspective. These are things that for which, I mean, he was given the responsibility very often. So how to how to handle perception is something that he understands very well. That is something that he has learned right from the very beginning of his career, in fact. So even today, the kind of negative coverage that you will find about him is from absolutely fringe publications like The Wire and stuff. I mean, even the mainstream media, or what we call the Lutyens media, which is more mainstream, is not going to hardly ever goes after him, even when he makes statements that are as controversial as other leaders, for instance. I've never really seen them go after him in that way.
अच्छा ये बताओ, आपने वैसे इसमें तो किताब में तो डिस्क्राइब किया है, बट प्लीज डिस्क्राइब फॉर आवर व्यूअर्स कैसे इतनी छोटी उम्र में आसाम एजिटेशन में हेमंत जी
Hmm.
इन्वॉल्व हो गए?
So he actually, there were a lot of things around him which helped in this. Uh, his brothers were debating champions in Guwahati. His parents were part of the literature world there, so they were always involved with discussing issues, etc. And so he, as a little boy, used to visit a town which is a few miles west from Guwahati during his vacations. So I think when he was in class 5 itself and he was visiting that town, that's where his uncle used to live. Uh, his granduncle used to live there actually, and his uncle was a young college going student at that time, and that's when the Assam agitation sort of picked up. That was in 1979. And so they were organizing, his uncle was organizing a rally there.
Hmm.
So as a little boy, he helped out, and he people noticed that he's very enthusiastic about it, and that he's constantly trying to even understand the issue better. So at that time, when the rally finally took place, and a lot of the stalwarts of the Assam agitation were present there, and he, as a little boy, was asked to go and speak on the dais, and he did that very confidently, and the crowd absolutely went crazy because they were obviously not used to seeing a little boy do that.
Hmm.
And he was so taken up by that that when he returned to Guwahati, he got into this full time. So even as an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old, uh, he used to go to the Guwahati University and sit with these stalwarts, and plan out what the day's activities would be and carry it out for them, whether it was going to the media and giving the press statements, whether it was sticking posters on walls, whatever it was. And finally, from carrying out these small responsibilities, he went on to even manage the big rallies that ASU was conducting across the state in Guwahati. And this is at a very early age. He was barely like 13, 14 years old at that time. So actually, by the age of 16, he was already part of the ASU's main body, because he had become the general secretary of the Guwahati unit at the age of 16 itself. So, and I mean, it must have been quite something, because all of them were young, obviously. All of them were students. So even Prafulla Mahanta and Brigu Phukan were in their 20s when they became chief minister and home minister of the state, late 20s. But still, I mean, for a 16-year-old at that time to be at the helm of the Guwahati unit, which was the backbone of the ASU, was unthinkable.
So, you know, many of the leaders, कई सारे आंसू के लीडर्स हैं जो कि
Hmm.
शुरू तो बहुत आइडियलिज्म के साथ किए और बहुत जल्दी बहुत करप्ट हो गए, और फिर
Hmm.
उनके
Hmm.
बारे में उतने ही स्कैम्स और उतने ही स्कैंडल्स आने लगे। पर
Hmm.
हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा के साथ
Hmm.
ऐसे कोई स्कैम्स जुड़े हों, ये तो नहीं
Hmm.
दिखा, नंबर वन। नंबर दो, हालांकि आंसू स्टूडेंट मूवमेंट थी, बहुत से उनके नेताओं ने अपनी पढ़ाई लिखाई को ज्यादा अहमियत दी ही नहीं। पर
Hmm.
अगेन हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा ऐसा नहीं लगता कि कुंजी पढ़ के या चीटिंग करके एग्जाम पास किए हो। इट लुक्स लाइक ही टुक हिज एजुकेशन सीरियसली। टेल अस मोर
Very
अबाउट
serious.
दैट। या।
Yeah. So this education aspect obviously is something that he took very seriously. In fact, all his student days in Cotton College, he was very much at the forefront, not just of student politics in Cotton College, but also the general upliftment of Cotton College. Like he really considered it to be his own, and he was involved in various activities to uplift the college. He was even involved in bringing postgraduate courses to Cotton. For instance, even as a student, as a general secretary, he has gone and lobbied with government officials for building a stadium there, for various other projects at Cotton. So this is something, education is something that he has always taken very seriously. And while he was doing his masters there, he was even getting his law degree on the side. So he used to study for his masters during the day and then study through the night for his law degree. And later he went on to even get his PhD. And he, in fact, actually got the PhD after he got elected as an MLA. So yeah, I mean, he actually, I think, would have probably received it a few months after he got elected for the first time. So, but I even spoke to his guide actually during the uh, while I was writing the book, and
What was
she
the
said that
title, the subject of his PhD?
so it is to do with the Northeastern Council, basically how the Northeastern Council works.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'll just give you the title itself. But basically, when I was working, when I was talking to his guide, she
Hmm.
told me that she was very surprised because she never thought, because he was already quite a well-known person by then in Assam politics as a student leader, and she never thought that he will be able to stick to the schedule, he will be able to deliver things on time. But she said that I was always surprised because not even once did he delay anything. Everything was on time, everything was proper. I so Yeah, that was something that she was also quite surprised about.
So, are you saying his time management is very good?
Yes, yes. Is This is something that he is known for, but more than that, he is somebody who barely sleeps for 3.5 hours or so. I mean, this is something from his student days. So his day actually starts at around 7 in the morning. It ends generally at 3:30 the next morning. So that is how he has functioned for years together. So time is generally not a constraint for him as such, but he's constantly working. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's not resting and all that much in between. It's
And he has
almost like a
good health?
constant thing. Yeah, so basically he even tries to take care of it as much as possible today, although now it's become very difficult in the last few years for him because his responsibilities have just increased exponentially. I mean, literally after every election cycle since 2001, his responsibilities have been going up both at the administrative level and at the political level. So he earlier he used to play a lot of badminton. He used to find some time in the day to play badminton. He's actually the president of the Badminton Association of India also. So that's a game that he's very fond of. So he used to play badminton, but then his shoulder went bad. So even now, he tries to put in a few, like, I think half an hour of walking every day and things like that. So even if it's late at night, he tries to go for a walk at least once a day. So yeah.
Uh, Tell me, is he a loner or a team player? मतलब
No,
क्या
no, a
स्टाइल
complete
है
team
काम
player.
करने का? हाँ?
A complete team player. He's a complete team player.
Give us
So
examples.
For instance, I was interviewing Mr. Ashok Singhal, who's probably now the one of the senior most cabinet ministers in Assam, and he's worked with Himanta for a long time. So he told me something very interesting. He says that everybody he knows who's worked with Himanta Das says that he's the one who's always adjusting to their wavelengths, whatever it is. So I mean, he makes it clear to whoever is around him that see, we have to get this work done. I mean, we will get it done by whatever it takes. We will get it done. But I'm totally okay working at your wavelength for it. But I mean, as long as you keep working with me, I mean, don't like drop out halfway and that kind of thing. But I will work at your wavelength at your wavelength. So this is something that even the bureaucrats have told me when I interviewed them. So, for instance, there's a bureaucrat who was posted in his constituency for a long time. He was a block development officer there. So he said that we used to go on rounds with him, and he used to tell us that like I want so and so project to be taken up here. Let's say I want a pond to be built in this village, or I want a local dispensary to be built in that village. We are going to do it here, and they would say that, see, he would make it very clear to us that your work is only the execution bit. I will tell you what to do and I will arrange for the fundings. So even as MLA, he's an excellent fundraiser. So even as an MLA, he was tapping into MP lad funds. He was tapping into making his case before government officials and bringing funds in for projects and all of that. So they were always very surprised because they were like, he's thinking of so many projects at the same time in his constituency. He's just an MLA. How is he going to fund this? But they never faced that problem because they said that on time the funds used to always appear magically. They used to be there, and our job was only to execute it within that given time frame. So so yeah, he is definitely a team player. I mean, that is even visible in his politics. He keeps so many coalition partners together in various states, so many MLAs together in at various points of his political career. So and he loves to be around people, to talk to people, to spend time with people. I don't think he ever spends those 22 hours of the day alone. I mean, maybe for one of his rounds while walking, he maybe gathers his thoughts in the morning or something. But other than that, from the morning, there are people in the house. It's like it's constantly he's around people. I don't think he's a loner at all.
फैमिली लाइफ नहीं है क्या बिल्कुल भी?
नहीं, वो भी है. It's all incorporated. So it's all incorporated. He manages that quite well despite his busy schedule. So he spends a lot of time with his family. Even if he doesn't, let's say, manage to do it on one day, he makes up for it the next day. So I even asked his family that. So they said that, yeah, I mean, we can see how busy he is, but we've never felt that he's away or he's not around or something like that.
अच्छा,
He's
कोई तो
always.
कोई तो नेगेटिव बात होगी हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा की? सारी अच्छी अच्छी है कि कोई भी कमी नहीं दिखी आपको?
Uh, No, so I have seen. See, frankly, I will be very honest with you. When a person comes across somebody like that, it's a larger than life figure in front of you. It's like a force of nature. It's not the kind of person that you meet every day. So it's very difficult to see something that puts you off at that time because it's clearly somebody who's functioning at another level. He's uh, running entire
नहीं,
states.
मेरा
He's.
मतलब ये नहीं कि आपने देखा अभी जैसे
Hmm,
पॉपुलर परसेप्शन में
hmm,
हर एक नेता के बारे में कुछ पॉजिटिव कुछ नेगेटिव,
hmm,
कईयों के बारे
hmm,
में नेगेटिव बहुत कम होता है, पॉजिटिव ज्यादा होता है.
hmm.
तो कोई भी इस तरह का नेगेटिव क्रिटिक आपको मीडिया में हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा के असम में दिखता है कि नहीं?
Assam mein, it's hardly there. I mean, even his opponents, for instance, political opponents, even they don't have anything personal to say against him as such. That is bad, because obviously politically they all toe their party lines to whatever extent they have to. They have to satisfy their vote banks. So those things are always said. But even if you go through the kind of interviews that Badruddin Ajmal was giving in the 2016 assembly, 2021 assembly elections, he uh, he was full of praise for Himanta Biswa Sarma. I mean, he said that, yeah, this is my opponent. I don't agree with what he does and all of that. But he used the word "kuch to hai is bande mein." He said that, and he he was very appreciative of his political strategies also in his interviews. So that way, even Torun Gogoi, with whom he had this major fallout before joining the BJP, despite this being a political fallout, they maintained excellent personal equations right till the end. I mean, even in the end, when Torun Gogoi was in the COVID ward, Himanta was the one who was going there every day to visit him, giving updates to people outside about how he was, etc. So this is on the last day when he got extremely critical and they knew that they would lose him very soon. Himantoda's entire family came to be around him. So these are
Remarkable.
somehow, yeah. So these are things that that are not visible in every state in India. Certainly not at the national level. Uh, but they do maintain a very very nice apolitical relationship outside the political spectrum. This is
Yes,
probably not something unique to him. It's there generally in the
आई थिंक
political
जो
class in
ओल्ड
Assam.
स्टाइल कांग्रेस लीडर होते थे उनका ये रहता था, कांग्रेस
अच्छा,
कल्चर में ये रहता था कि अक्रॉस पार्टी लाइन पर्सनल इक्वेशन अच्छे रखो। अब नहीं रहा।
अच्छा.
अब ये जब से ये पप्पू जनरेशन आ गई है, ये तो किसी के साथ भी सीधे मुंह बात नहीं करते, तो
हम्म,
ऑपोजिट पार्टी के साथ क्या करेंगे? नाउ व्हाट आई वांट टू नो इज दिस टू थिंग्स। एक तो अगर यूपी और योगी जी की बात करें तो
हम्म,
उनसे बहुत लोग नाखुश हैं क्योंकि इज क्रैक डाउन ऑन करप्शन।
yeah.
ना वो खुद करप्ट हैं उस तरह से जैसे यूपी के चीफ मिनिस्टर रहे हैं, और
हम्म,
ना वो बहुत उदार दिल हैं, इज नॉट जेनरस टुवर्ड्स द करप्ट। तो क्योंकि वो पैसा नहीं बना पा रहे एमएलए तो और मिनिस्टर, तो काफी खफा रहते हैं इस बात से। हेमंत
हम्म.
बिस्व शर्मा का इन सवालों पे क्या रवैया है ऑन इश्यूज ऑफ करप्शन,
So,
पब्लिक
so
प्रोबिटी?
basically, yeah. So basically, there is one thing that we have to understand, which is that since the year 2006, he has been the biggest fundraiser for the Congress in the region. So, in that sense, I mean, the Congress party, actually, every party has politicians who specialize in that. And this is another field that he specializes in as a politician. So, and there is no hiding that. I mean, this is something that even he is open about, that he has brought in a lot of funds for whichever party that he is in. So, because of this, there have been a lot of charges against him at the state level that have been there in the past. But again, this is something that nobody has been able to prove in court. These are those who tried to take him on have even ended up facing fines from the court. There have been defamation suits against them because they have been which they have lost, in fact. So they have not been able to really uh, pinpoint and actually prove anything against him as such. Although these allegations have been there since the Gogoi era, that he's the one who's bringing in the funds and all that, but in terms of actually getting something substantial on him, that is something that nobody has achieved. I
अच्छा,
mean,
अगर
even the
आप
whole
सॉरी सॉरी
hmm.
सॉरी प्लीज फिनिश।
So this Sarda scam which had happened in Bengal, so this had also taken place in Assam, and this person Sudipto Sen, who was the founder of Sharda, had mentioned Himanta Biswa Sharma's name as one of the people who had allegedly taken money from him at some point and things like that. But then, even the CBI, both under the Congress and under the BJP, was never able to find anything against him. They had to end up making him a witness in the case because he was very open about the fact that I know this gentleman, I have dealt with him because he has opened industries in Assam, etc. But nobody was able to prove any monetary dealings. So these are the even the Congress actually towards the end, because of internal rivalries, was projecting that he was a and accused in the Sharda scam. So even at that time, he had to take the charge sheet himself to Sonia Gandhi to show that, like, he is just a witness, because at that time this power struggle was going on with Tarun Gogoi. So these are all, I mean, these are all in the public domain, in fact.
ओके नाउ लास्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू इज दिस एक हमारे वेंकटेश पूछ रहे हैं क्या संस्कृत एजुकेशन पार्ट ऑफ हिज अप्रोच टुवर्ड्स एजुकेशन क्योंकि आपने कहा सिविलाइजेशनल इश्यूज लेते हैं दूसरा जो मेरा
Hmm.
सवाल है अगर आप
Hmm.
यूपी में जाएं तो यूपी बिफोर योगी और यूपी आफ्टर योगी is a dramatic difference. Quality
Hmm.
of roads, metros, I mean, name it. You can see a palpable difference in the way
Hmm.
the state is now being run. क्या
Hmm.
असम में जाओ तो क्या चीज आपको बताएगी प्री हेमंतो एंड एरा और हेमंतो एरा का डिफरेंस
So, so there is a difference in terms of looking at things if you compare it to UP. Because in UP, the difference that you see will be very stark if you just look at the the pre 2017 period and the post 2017 period. But here, for instance, as I was telling you about healthcare, this is a difference that you will see in that particular sector. Because even as a minister in the Gogoi cabinet, he was the only one who was known to be a proactive minister who was actually taking steps and doing things and so on. So there was a massive difference there, like the and various parameters. You saw a lot of improvement in terms of the healthcare situation. Uh, in general, you see a lot of development has taken place post the 2016 period
एक
after the BJP
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर
government.
इम्प्रूवमेंट है रोड्स कनेक्टिविटी
Yes, yes,
वाटर बिजली all that
yes,
is
yes.
visible
So again, like in post the BJP coming to power in Assam in 2016, the entire PWD ministry was under him. So there was a massive boost in rural roads, village roads, roads inside tea gardens, inside tea estates. All the state highways were turned into the same specifications as national highways. A lot of the old projects like the Bogeybill Bridge and so on, which the central government also had a role, they were also pushed a lot. So there was a massive difference in terms of infrastructure at the state level. But this is something that obviously he played a major role in, because he was both the finance minister and the PWD minister in the Sonowal government. But yeah, that happened in a major way in the Sonowal era, and it is being continued right now. So now there is a whole plan to make Guwahati a big hub for Southeast Asia, for the whole Act East policy of the government, etc. So these are things that he is carrying forward in his term as the chief minister.
okay now last thing absolutely last quickly 2 points before we wind up number one असम तो इतना एजिटेशंस के लिए मशहूर था आए दिन घेराव बंद ब्लॉकेड ये वो अभी
Hmm.
सुनते ही नहीं है बिल्कुल भी कोई उस तरह की एजिटेशन even
Hmm.
though as you say he's taking tough measures पर कोई
Hmm.
एजिटेशन नहीं है ये
Hmm.
कैसे हाउ इज ही मैनेजिंग दैट नंबर टू अभी
Hmm.
जैसे यूपी में योगी जी के बारे में कहा जाता है कि जो बीजेपी हाई कमांड है उनके रास्ते में उनको कंट्रोल करने के लिए बहुत प्रयास करते हैं उनको खुली छुट्टी नहीं है उनको अपनी टीम नहीं बना सकते अपनी मर्जी से कैंडिडेट सिलेक्शन नहीं कर पाए अपनी मर्जी से योगी जी को कहते हैं बताया जाता है कि वो अपने ऑफिसर भी नहीं अपॉइंट कर पा रहे बीजेपी का हाई कमांड तय करता है तो ये दोनों सवालों पे कैसे मैनेज कर रहे हैं हेमंत जी
So
क्या जो
agitations,
योगी जी के प्रेशर है उन पे भी है जो हाई कमांड
politic.
को भी कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश करती है कि उनका
No,
इजी है
so नहीं, so I don't know about matlab actually what is happening behind the scenes with Yogi ji, but in Assam again, he was not the chief ministerial candidate. like Yogi ji in 2017. So this was a selection that was made after the elections.
Hmm.
So again, I don't know. Obviously, I think both sides would have played a role in deciding who goes where, etc. But uh, it is also a little too early to say this, because with Yogi ji, a lot of people can come to these conclusions 5 years down the line. So
Hmm.
I don't know about. I mean, what is really going on behind the scenes at this point there.
Okay.
But the question about agitations is a very interesting question.
Hmm.
क्योंकि this agitational mindset is something that, if you look at even his writings or his speeches, he is very against this kind of a mindset. And
So he's the
it's
product of
very
a huge agitation.
exactly, so it's very strange because he's a product of this agitation. But at some point, when he was probably in college, in Cotton College, doing his masters, there was a big change in the way he looked at things. uh, he somewhere realized that, this is not the way forward for the state. And when he joined Hiteshwar Saikia, which means he made a switch from the Assam movement side to the Congress for the first time. At that time, they very systematically broke this whole student movement together. One was obviously his switching itself caused a big setback for the student movement, because he was heading the Guwahati unit. He was the also like the president at Cotton College and all that. So he was obviously by a long shot the most prolific student leader at that point. Uh, and then they very systematically brought the NSUI back into the game in various college student bodies across the state and all of that. And when Torun Gogoi became the chief minister in 2001, after that, the fact that he was able to continue for 3 terms uh, itself brought about a lot of stability and peace to the region. I mean, there were a lot of shortcomings in many other domains, but this peace and stability was definitely a product of the Gogoi era. And
Hmm.
here, obviously, Himanta played a very important part, because whether I mean, it was to handle law and order situations, whether it was to handle the Bodo movement, uh, he was always Gogo's go-to man for all these things. So he definitely played a part in bringing about a lot of stability. And this is something that he did because actually, when the CA agitations broke out, uh, again, for the first time, you had that kind of agitation in Assam after almost 2, 3 decades. So it left a very bitter taste for a lot of people. There were even doubts about whether the BJP will come back and all of that. But then he was the one who went down on the ground. He really calmed the tensions. He brought the BJP back into the game 1 year before the elections again. So he is somebody who knows how to deal with these kind of things. He understands how to handle them both at the level of discussions and negotiation, as well as at the level of enforcing some kind of peace or ceasefire when such things break out. So uh, so yes, I mean, that has been his sort of relation with agitations throughout his career.
अजीत दत्ता, आई कंसिडर यू वेरी लकी कि आपको एक ऐसे पॉलिटिशियन और चीफ मिनिस्टर को करीब से देखने का मौका मिला
Hmm.
जिसकी तरफ सारे देश की निगाहें हैं कि
Yeah.
ये ऐसा व्यक्ति हमारे भारत का फ्यूचर प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी हो सकता है या होना चाहिए। इस कैलिबर का व्यक्ति और जिसके इतने गजब के मैनेजमेंट स्किल्स हैं, तो आप वाकई खुशकिस्मत हैं। इट्स नॉट वेरी ऑफन दैट पीपल गेट टू नो पॉलिटिशियंस एंड स्टिल रिटेन ऑप्टिमिज्म अबाउट देम। पर हमारे एक
Mhm.
व्यूअर कह रही हैं कि पूनम कह रही हैं कि उनको कहिए अपनी नींद के लिए थोड़ा समय और निकालें। उनकी लाइफ कीमती है, उनकी हेल्थ कीमती है और हमें चाहिए कि वो लंबी उम्र तक जिए, ताकि जो काम उन्होंने शुरू किया है, जो मुहिम शुरू की है और नॉर्थ ईस्ट को इलीगल माइग्रेंट से और ये जो सारा इस्लामीकरण चल रहा था तेजी से, उसमें थोड़ा रोड ब्लॉक, थोड़ा सा शायद रोड ब्रेकर शुरू हुए हैं. वी नीड पीपल लाइक हिम, एंड सो प्लीज डू एडवाइज हिम कि 3 घंटे तो नहीं, कम से कम 5 घंटे सो लिया करें. और 2 घंटे ज्यादा सोने से शायद 20 साल उनकी उम्र बढ़ जाएगी. We can't afford to lose a politician like him. We don't have many like him. So thank you very much for sharing your insights into one of the most promising politicians of our time, Himanta Biswa Sarma. And I hope you will keep close track. मेरा आपसे अनुरोध ये है कि जो जो उनके मेजर काम है, चाहे 4-5 ले लीजिए, उसको फॉलो कीजिए कि अखबारें क्या रिपोर्ट कर रही हैं. व्हाट काइंड ऑफ फॉलो अप एक्शन इज ही डूइंग. डोंट स्टॉप विद दिस बुक, you know,
Yes.
because there are not many other books on him. Hopefully 2-4 और लोग इंस्पायर होके करेंगे, पर कम से कम आप इस काम को, इस स्टडी को जारी रखिए. और कैसे वो आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं काम को, maybe you'll have a follow up volume in another 5 years, but that will
Yes.
happen only अगर आप रोज वहां के अखबार पढ़ते रहें, वहां के लोगों से संपर्क बनाए रखें, क्या क्या नई डेवलपमेंट्स हो रहे हैं, क्या क्या नए चैलेंजेस हैं. तो कृपया उसका ध्यान रखिए. We will count on you to give us updates on Assam as and when the need
Yes.
arises. Thank you very much. We will, with this, wind up today's Samvad. Viewers,
Thank you
please
so much, Madhu
like.
ji.
My pleasure, जी. आप व्यूअर्स को रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एंड शेयर. आपके सवाल जवाब तो नहीं ले पाए, वो यू हैव टू गेट टू सुपर चैट, बिकॉज ऐसे ढूंढना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है मेरे लिए. मैं कौन सा सवाल लूं, क्या न लूं, इसीलिए सुपर चैट इंट्रोड्यूस किया है. तो आपको उसकी आदत डालनी पड़ेगी. पहले तो मैं ऐसे ऐसे देख के आप सबके सवाल जवाब कोशिश करती थी कि मैं खुद ही उनको ढूंढ लूं, but it's really not easy. So I urge you to use super chat, those of you who wish to have a dialogue or question Q&A with the speaker. Thank you very much. और इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ आप सबसे विदा लेते हैं. शुभ रात्रि. जय हिंद, जय भारत.